Hi to everybody. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me to this nice opportunity to present Serbian agriculture in front of you. Unfortunately, this is with this video link, but hopefully next time will be live. My name is Goran Živkov, and I'm representing company SEEDEV. I'm one of the owners of SEEDEV, which is registered in Serbia and in Croatia, and we are, I would say, a leader in the consultancy businesses in Serbia when we're talking about local companies. Very shortly, my task is to present you what is the potential for investment in Serbia and to brief you about possible opportunities. I structure my presentation in 5 parts. First is about Serbia, general things. The second is I will tell you about what is the possibility, what is the main advantage for someone who is doing investment in Serbia. Third one, we will go through the sectors and to present, in which sectors there is a potential, in which how Serbia, what is the main trends. The fourth one, I will talk about the land issues and what is needed, to acquire land in Serbia. And the fifth one, it will be some of our tips from Serbia how to do investments. Shortly, this is Serbia. North part is Vojvodina, and we have around 1.2 million hectares in Vojvodina, and you can see this is a lowland, which is, I would say, the majority of the farmers are good farmers are there. And then there is central Serbia, which is hilly mountain region. We have to know, although very often you will hear that in Serbia there is 650,000 farmers or whatever. Actually, this is on the paper because a lot of them is small, even without the land that's considered as a farmers. Actually, in Vojvodina you have 22,000 farms who is cropping 80% of the land. In central Serbia, you have 155,000 farmers who is cropping 80% of the land. Total land area is 3.7 million hectares of arable land, or around 5.1% million hectares of agricultural land. As I said, the main area is Vojvodina, where dominate cereals, oil crops, sugar beet, fruits, vegetables, almost all cereals production is there. Serbia is also famous with, in the western part, you have raspberry. Serbia is currently is the third biggest producer of raspberry and the second biggest exporter. You will find this is very small area here. Livestock production is based, of course, in Vojvodina in cattle and pork production, but also on the mountain here in the Pešter, and also here in the eastern part of the Serbia. Some vegetable production is again mainly in Vojvodina, but also close to the rivers. In central Serbia you can find some vegetable production. Now we will try to identify what are the main reasons why someone will invest in Serbia. On the first way, that's farmers, because in Serbia it's still possible to organize very nicely a supply chain. Although that many companies are always thinking just about how to acquire land, I think this is one of the biggest mistakes, because the farmers who are naturally grow from in the last, I would say, 10 years, and now they are achieving very good yields, they know how to do it. And actually, I think really that the biggest advantage for Serbia is farmers. Also, if you look, we have a very similar structure like the Poland, almost I would say the same, that the agriculture is based primarily on the family farms. Less than 10% of the land is currently in the possession of companies, and farmers is really the more advanced and doing much better. The second reason, I think, it's this pre-accession possibility that it's now, we are expecting that next year we'll start IPARD fund, which, as you very well know, it's grants similar like what EU is giving to their farmers for rural development. Therefore, Serbia will be eligible for usage of the IPART fund for not any, but for the certain investments. The next one, the advantage is that we have free trade agreements, very favorable free trade agreements, meaning with EU we have almost all, for all the products, zero tariffs. We have in the CEFTA region, CEFTA is Bosnia, Macedonia, Montenegro, Moldova, Kosovo, and Albania. We have zero tariffs, and we are definitely, majority of the products were sold there. Then also we have a free trade agreement with the EU, with the US, where we have general preferences, and also we are having free trade agreement with Russia, where majority of the products are basically sold on the Russian market with zero tariffs. It's not all, some products still has tariff, but if you're talking about meat or fruits and vegetables, that's zero tariff. We have also Serbia will become member of the EU. We are in the pre-accession stage. That means that in next several, let's say 7, 8, 10 years, we will become member of EU, and then all that requiring the market and then subsidies. Serbia also has quite significant domestic market, the biggest one in the region. Serbia is the biggest country in the CEFTA. And also we have Danube, which is one of the potential which start to be heavily used, especially when we are talking about the export of cereals. In Constanza we are, and also with Danube we have access to from Rotterdam to Constanza, which is currently, I would say, the most favorable route for the oil crops and cereals. Also, a lot of products in Serbia has quality, meaning that it's also this regional recognitions that this can be definitely used. If you look at the structure of production in Serbia, you will see that definitely the highest value of production is cereals, primarily maize. Then it's coming pork meat, dairy products, and other meat products. Serbia is also quite famous, not famous, but let's say quite high representation in the total overall value of production is oil crops, similar like Italy. Serbia is a country who is growing soybean, sunflowers, and this is also if you look at the slides which is showing the trends. I just need to explain how to look these slides, which shows that zero is world growth. That means if on the right side is that you are growing higher, that your trend is higher than and faster than bigger than the world production, and on the left side then you are lower. And size of the bubbles is showing the value that we are measuring. And if you look here, you can see that Serbia has positive trends in the last 7 years in the cereals production, in the fruit and oil crops, while also having a downsizing production of vegetables, milk, and the dairy. Of course, this is the global pictures. If you look, for example, the meat, you will realize that positive trends in comparison with the world are in the poultry production and in the sheep and goats production. We are relatively on the level of new member states. If we are talking about the pork industry, we managed to keep our pork production to the level that was not completely disappear like what was happening in many of the new member states. While in the cattle production is quite stable, we do not export, not import, therefore it's more depending on our consumption. Therefore, consumption is a bit lower year by year, and therefore we are a bit slightly decrease in production. Generally speaking, in the last 10 years, Serbia managed to have to stable value of production, where Vojvodina was really growing, Central Serbia is downsizing, cereals and oil crops and fruit sector was growing, while the other is downsizing. If you're talking about the importance and shares of Serbian production in the EU and the world, Serbia is definitely a significant producer of stone fruits, including primarily plums, but also peaches and apricots, and also berry fruits, which is dominated by raspberry and blueberries, but also there is a significant production of strawberries. In the EU and Europe, generally, that's also the livestock and oilseed crop. If you're looking in particular crops, then you will definitely realize that this is even in the EU world or CEFTA market, it's definitely raspberries, it's soybean, similar like Italy. Serbia is producing a lot of soya, and they're having long-lasting traditional production of soya, and that's all non-GMO soya, because we have ban law which is banning import of soybean. Also then it's quince and plums. And if you're talking about some commodity, then it's maize. If you can see that in the total in the EU, we are almost 10% of the maize production in the EU. And in one moment in 2012, we were the sixth exporter of maize even in the world. Now this export is counting around 2.5 million tons per year, and it's all going to Constanța. I can definitely talk much more about each specific sector and each specific commodities, and I decided to present like one study that we did. It's basically one of our flagship that SEEDEV is doing, is competitiveness analysis based on the more than 20 different indicators. And you can see here on the slides basically the products listed in around 30 products, and how Serbian products is competitive in comparison with first slide with the world, where you can see that definitely that's raspberry, cherry, sour cherry, plum, quince, and five main fruits, and then it's coming maize, sunflower, sugar beet, apricot, strawberry, etc., etc. If you're talking about in relation to the EU, competitiveness in the EU, the big difference is that soy is now coming on the second place. Also that we are, let's say, less competitive in sunflower, like than it was comparing with the world. And basically you can, I will send you this data and you can analyze that and have in front of you to analyze more deeply. And finally, if you are comparing with the CEFTA market, there is no big difference, but also only the more cereal, we are more competitive in the cereals production. Also in the meat in the region is competitiveness of meat is increasing. A couple of words regarding the land purchasing possibility and also land legislation. 87% of the land in Serbia is privately owned by the farmers, or it doesn't not necessarily by the farmers. This state land is mainly in Vojvodina region. Some part here is on the pasture. Therefore, totally state land is around 800,000 hectares. But officially, I would say that what is the focus is this 250,000 hectares of the state land, which is currently used by the farmers on the auctions for, let's say, short-term or long-term tender auctions based on the tender who pays more. There is some privilege who can rent this state land, and this is livestock farmers. They can get 1 hectare with the privilege price and not going on the tender for 1 hectare per 1 livestock unit. That means that totally in every year, each year, around 250,000 hectares is going of state land is going for auctions, where last year 32% was given with some privilege conditions, primarily to the livestock farmers. That was for leasing land. Expectation is that the state will start to sell this land, first to restitute, to give to the previous owner, and this is around, let's say, 160, 170,000 hectares which will restitute, and this land very soon will be on the market, for possibility to be purchased. And other is also that in next 7 to 8 years, the state will start to sell the land. Therefore, we are expecting that in primarily in Vojvodina region, in the next 10 years, you will have possibility to buy around, I would say, 170 or maybe even 200,000 hectares, if not even more. However, currently, you can find the parcels which are not small, let's say from 50 to 100 hectares, mainly from the second round of privatization or with some land that was not properly used due to the million of reasons, and now they're reselling. Foreign company cannot own the land. Sorry, let's put it like this. Foreigners cannot own the land, but foreign company can. And therefore, we have a lot of examples where, starting from Arabs, to Hungarians, even the Irish company are now cropping land in agricultural land in Vojvodina. If you ask me about the prices, I would say the prices varies for the good agricultural land in Vojvodina is from, let's say, 6,000 to 7,000 euros per hectare up to the 11. Sometimes can be even a bit higher, but not much more higher. It varies on the local market, it varies on the size, varies on the infrastructure existing, but it will not go lower than 7,000 per hectare, neither higher than 11,000. And finally, I would like to give you several tips based on our experience working 15 years in the Serbian agriculture, being from one side a policymaker, but also someone who is helping investors. I think in Serbia is good to bring new technology and to organize supply chain based on that. What does that mean? For example, on the slide you can see that I'm presenting now, you can see how the entrance of the new seeds from domestic, to the foreign seed, how it's basically quickly replaced. We have now a situation where there was really farmers likes to start the new technology, which will improve their competitiveness. Therefore, if you can bring some new storage possibility or new type of the pesticides, new seeds, new irrigation equipment, solar panels for irrigation in the field, which will reduce the cost of fuel, etc. Everything which I think you can really very easily organize your selling chain, but then also supply chain with the goods that these farmers is producing. The second tip is that to try to go on to add value, because one of the serious, I would say even the main problem of Serbia is that we have quite well developed primary production. Our farmers in Vojvodina have 10, 11, 12 tons of maize, is no problem. But we do not have processing industry. Therefore, there is huge competition on primary production level, which at the end also leads to the relatively high price of the agricultural land, because there is relatively small number of farmers who is fighting for land, but there is not so much on the processing side. Not only processing, but what's mean added value. I think that we didn't use properly our possibility to have access to the Russian market, EU market, and then to produce some products, which will have high value and then exported even to Italy. Therefore, if I'm Italian, I will think, what is really exist need in Italy, to bring to produce here, I would say cheaper, and then to bring to Italy. The third tip will be this very interesting livestock sector, where now it's starting. For example, the German company Tennis is coming, then also a lot of Austrians is coming, and try to work in the livestock sector where there is potential primarily because of the good prices. I will present you, for example, just to see how the Serbian prices of pork prices are higher than prices in the EU and Croatia. And with these prices, you can definitely be able to make a profit. A lot of companies are now starting to realize that you have from one side access to the Russian market, from other side enjoying the good prices in Serbia, and in some future of 7-8 years that you can be able to also export to the EU. Then also the fourth tip will be to try to work on something that Serbia is definitely competitive, and this is cereal and oil crops, either soybean or sunflower. There is a lot of processing facility which was not used properly, with good management, good investments. I think this is something where Serbia has potential to be more competitive, etc. I'm really will stop here because I said I have 10 minutes. I hope that I didn't overcome that, and really wish you successful workshop, and wish also to see you in Serbia soon. Thank you. Goodbye.